Whoa, ho, ho, ho!
Epic jams.
Fist it.
Hey everybody, I'm Ken. Where are we, Greg?
We're in the Wildwood Lair, but the new Wildwood Lair at the brand new location, beautiful Louisville, Colorado. It is, because most of the time we'd shoot videos, well, all the time we shot videos, they were off-site at another location.
But not now. Now we're in a fishbowl.
That's right.
We're looking out onto the showroom, and they're looking in at us.
They are indeed.
So if every once in a while, if you see us go, it's because
someone's doing something unspeakable behind the glass that can only be described as wrong.
Yeah.
But that's not
true.
wrong here at Wildwood, because anything goes.
Anything goes. So what? I guess I'm really excited about the new location. I spent a few days here. I actually worked the sales floor on Saturday, getting guitars out for people and explaining. It was fun. I had a really good time.
It's a vibey joint, is it not?
It is. The idea, they have this big, beautiful showroom here, and a smattering of the instruments that they have available are on display, so you can get a good idea of what they do here.
Right.
But yet behind this wall that has maybe 40 guitars on it, maybe even less, there is a room that has about 2,700 guitars.
Actually, it's
even 3,000. It keeps going.
Let's just go with thousands.
Thousands. So if you go on the website and there is something here that you want to see, you can come in and grab one of the many fine gentlemen that have sales desks out there, and they will pull that guitar out for you, and you can spend a little bit of time with it. But if you are an online purchaser of instruments,
right,
these guitars have been lovingly taken care of and not hung on a hook in a music store,
right,
for 6 months and then sold to. It's an interesting concept,
right? As we do, that's why we do the video, so that people can say, "Oh, you've got, 10 versions of this glorious guitar in the same color. I wonder which one sounds different from the rest." And you can go on and say, "Oh, this one sounds a little different. This one sounds a little this," and away we go. But what's interesting about the new establishment is that for years in the old Wildwood establishment, which started off humbly, Steve Masterplay, the owner.
That's the one.
Years ago, started off, he was a professional musician, had a little store with a spattering of instruments, but mostly was a lesson studio. Mm-hmm. And then over the years, it just started to expand, and he got this idea for doing these custom guitars from the various manufacturers and just kind of putting the Wildwood stamp on them of like, well, what if we did this and this and this, tweaking things in such a way, and that really became the hallmark. And that, of course, went over into the Reverend land as well. Many different special offerings that you can only get here at the WW.
Indeed. And it's been fantastic for me on the manufacturer side of it. What a fun place to work with, because sometimes I will have ideas, or Joe Naylor will have ideas, or one of our many Reverend signature artists, such as will have an idea for something that maybe we don't necessarily want to take into the mainstream. Or we're like, oh, that's kind of a niche thing. It's super cool.
Right.
Or even better, we'd kind of like to test the waters on this.
Right.
And our friends at Wildwood will order, a dozen instruments or 20 instruments or something like that to have their own private specifications on,
right,
and sell it here. And then we come out here and do stuff like this. And so it's a boon for me.
Yes.
And right around 2010, we were about 2 years into our relationship with Pete Anderson. And I ran into Steve at a trade show. I would always run into Steve at trade shows. And he would even come down to the Arlington vintage show, because he bought and sold a handful of vintage gear. I don't think he does that much anymore, but he used to enjoy doing that.
Correct.
And I always bugged him. Hey, I want to sell your guitars. Hey, I want you to sell my guitars. Well, I need you to sell my guitars. And he was always very polite with me. And then when we started working with Pete, I think it clicked. The Pete Anderson and Rick Vito, the idea of doing some custom runs with these guys and having Rick and Pete come out here and do these videos appealed to Steve about 10 years ago.
Right.
And that's really what started our ball sort of rolling. And then every year or so, I did a custom run with an artist for Wildwood,
right,
and brought them out here. And we've done, obviously, Pete and Rick over the years. We did Unknown Hinson here, and look through these. If you're an Unknown Hinson fan, look through these archives, because I did a interview video with Unknown Hinson here, where he came out to Colorado without hair and makeup. And he did the interview with me as Danny Baker, talking about the character of Unknown Hinson, and it was the first time in 15 years that he had ever
gone out of character
officially. And the video is incredibly cool. And then we've had Bob Balch and Kyle Shutt from the Sword.
Yes, the Sword.
The Sword. Kyle's got so many cool things going on that I can't tell you about. But when you hear it later, Ken said Kyle was doing something cool. That's what I'm referring to right now. Bob Balch, Fu Manchu is celebrating 30 years this year.
Yes.
And Fu is going out on a couple of really big tours, but that last record of theirs crushed.
Excellent.
With Alex Lifeson.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
On the big epic Clone of the Universe.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so they've been out here with me. Gil Paris, of course, has been out here with me.
Gil.
We did a really cool thing, and you played with Gil. And then this whole thing then put us together.
Exactly.
Because I came out here to show off some new products, and then I think the idea was you were doing some demo videos, and Steve wanted you to talk to me about the Reverend thing.
Yeah.
And then you and I just hit it off,
and the rest is history.
And now we come out here a couple times a year. You come out here every month, of course,
right?
And
Exactly.
do a lot of stuff. But I come out here a couple times a year and join you. And then that has led to the Mighty Gristlemaster.
Yes.
Which has been good. It is a glorious instrument. It is. And now Wildwood is, of course, doing their exclusive fat neck version of the black one, which is killer model.
Delicious.
And we just, now that we have, it's never stopped me before, but this place is great.
Yes.
And so as we roll into 2020, Reverend is doing a lot of new models, like a lot. We left some things behind. We have left the, Tricky Gomez, Tricky Move, disappeared into the woodwork again. Checks came back as undeliverable.
That's right. Where is Tricky?
And
we don't know.
Nobody knows. So
he's gone.
If he shows up again, of course, we'll figure it out.
Right.
But for now, he has gone away. But we are updating the Warhawk models. And then, of course, a few things have gone away, and we're adding a few things in the set neck line that are going to be fantastic as we go on.
Yes.
New artist models. Robin Fink from 9 Inch Nails is doing a guitar with us. He's been a Reverend user for a few years, and a couple of subtle tweaks on our Sensei is all he required.
Yes.
And there's a video right over here where Greg and I talk about that, probably down into the...
down to the left somewhere. On YouTube land.
Yeah, we'll check that out. And there's so many cool things to talk about. But I mean, I just a quick oversight. I'm holding in my hands a Jetstream 390, and the Jetstream 390 was one of Naylor did the Slingshot, and then the Slingshot Custom was the 3P90 version of the original Reverend guitar.
Right.
And when we started getting into the solid body instruments, one of the first things that Joe wanted to do was, of course, follow the 3P90 trail. Jetstream 390 Carina body, roasted maple neck, and 3 Reverend P90 pickups, and the HA90s, I believe we call them. Volume, tone, bass, contour, control. I am plugged into my brand new Friedman Small Box 50 behind me. Cool thing about P90s, beef. And you might even look at an amp like the Friedman and go, well, I know what that does. That does this. And it does do that well.
Yes.
But, I mean, it also does.
It does. It does.
And the 3P90s is cool because you get the 2 and 4 positions.
Right. Which with P90s really sounds good.
Yeah, and you don't give up the girth.
No.
The girth is still there. So, and this is, of course, this has been a staple of the Reverend line for 15 years. And there's going to be a bunch of fancy new colors in 2020, all available here at Wildwood Guitars. What do you hold in your hands? Oh!
Look at this glorious
This is the
piece.
first time I'm even talking about it. So if there's some mistakes or some editing or whatever, hey, too bad. This is it. We'll get more into depth on this, of course, over here. But this is the return of the Roundhouse, folks. You've
I
been
just
asking,
like the term Roundhouse.
Yeah, you have been asking for the Roundhouse guitar. We did a model called the Roundhouse 2007, 8, maybe early 2009, and it looked a little bit like something else. And Joe did it in reaction to a lot of our dealers wanting some set neck guitars because of activities in the marketplace,
If you will.
if you will. And And the Roundhouse was popular, but it never looked like a Reverend. And when Joe Naylor designed the Sensei, the Roundhouse and another guitar that we made called the Daredevil sort of got dropped and combined into the Sensei model.
Got it.
And Joe's wheels are always turning. And the idea for the single cutaway has been on his mind ever since. And many, many drawings went by before he laid out a single cut guitar that looks like a Reverend.
It does.
And plays like a Reverend and sounds fantastic. This is our first foray into the arched, carved maple top.
Of course, the glorious thing about this is that with all Reverends is that you have a good proximity ergonomically of volume control activity, and of course you got that bass contour, which is super versatile.
Yeah, and it makes a guitar like that do more than you would think it would.
Right.
I am not a huge fan myself personally, and I know that Joe feels the same way I do. I always feel like coil taps just make, or split coils, if you will, on humbuckers, just make a guitar sound less, and there's not really a lot of usable tones in there. And that's not, I know a lot of guys will argue with me on this. There's some passable,
Yeah, there are some good ones.
Usable tones.
There are some good ones.
When you're coil tapping humbuckers. And
Right.
if you're in a band and you've got to do the little funk breakdown in
Right.
the middle of a song, right? And so that's something that you can switch to, but you're never really going to want that sound to replace your single coil instrument because they never sound that
Right.
great. The bass contour allows you to do the funky thing with a whole lot of usable tones.
Well,
in
plus
between.
you guys always put the treble bleed on the volume control.
Indeed.
So that makes it.
do.
So when you have that in conjunction to a proximity of the volume control to the bridge that you can do all your normal volume control activities, and then you have the bass contour as well, you've got a lot of hues to be able to choose. Oh, a lot of hues that you're able to choose. Frohioium. Frohioium.
Indeed.
Is that wrong?
No, it's not.
I don't think so.
For more information on the Roundhouse, look at this video down here. We're going to
go over it
we're
in
going to talk about that
deets.
for sure. And so we are sitting here with 15 years of Reverend Guitars evolution. What did you call it?
A dichotomy, if you will, of new and old,
Indeed. Can you dig it?
riding together into the sunset, but yet to a new dawn.
Here
What?
at
That's some time, space shifting, time shifting activity. I think just related to what?
yet we're back in the comfortable bosom of the Wildwood lair, right?
The warm bosom of the wild live.
Does it seem like it was just yesterday that all this
That's right.
started?
It's only just begun to play guitar here in the new Wildwood lair. I don't even know what happened there, but I felt the power of Karen Carpenter coursing through my corns.
Here we go.
I don't have corns. But listen, shout out to Karen Carpenter. Listen, folks, here in the Wildwood lair, I'm here with Ken Haas. Stay tuned for a cornucopia of new videos celebrating the glorious offerings of 2020, a year that will live in infamy. Well, I mean that in a good way, not in a bad way, as it's been referenced in the past. Listen, we'll see you cats in the flippity flop. Gregory Cockery,
Ken Haas, all.
see you later.
Dude.